Eile HaDevarim. Those are the opening two words of the book of Deuteronomy. These are the words. In Jewish tradition, we so value words. On the one hand, you could say, we like to talk. And on the other hand, we know how holy words can be. We often point to the story of creation. God spoke, and the world came to be. God spoke, and there was light. Right from the beginning, the Torah explains God's word has power. And right at the beginning of the last book of the Torah, Devarim in Hebrew, Deuteronomy in English, Devarim in the Hebrew is emphasized, words. Deuteronomy may imply a second telling of the law, but Devarim and Moses' words teach us a lot about the power of our language. Rabbi Sachs points out in his essays on the weekly Parsha that Judaism is particularly interested in one unusual use of language. The Oxford philosopher J.L. Austin called it performative utterance. This happens when we use language not to describe something, but to do something. So, for instance, when a groom says to his bride under the chuppah, "Behold, you are betrothed to me," he's not describing a marriage, he's getting married. When in ancient times the Beit Din declared the new moon, they were not making atonement or a statement of the fact. They were creating a fact on the ground. They were turning the day into the new moon, the new month. The key example, Rabbi Sachs explains, of a performative utterance is a promise. When I promise you that I will do something, I am creating something that did not exist before, namely an obligation. This fact, small though it might seem, turns out to be the foundation of Judaism. Our words obligate us in so many ways. And thusly, we have to be careful with our words. Statements and speeches and turns of phrase may indeed change the course of history. Let's remember Patrick Henry's famous line, "Liberty or death." And while, yes, he was a founding father who was a man of his own time, recognized in 1775 in Virginia, on the eve of the American Revolution, that chains must be broken in the future. And in order to forge ahead with a society in which equality could exist, liberty or death, he was ready to fight for it. Sojourner Truth also changed history. She delivered a fiery oration in 1851. "Ain't I a woman?" at a women's rights convention in Akron, Ohio. That took on a life of its own afterwards. And that made Sojourner Truth a hero for men, African Americans, and the greater vision of all Americans who desire equality and justice for all. Do you recall that Abraham Lincoln's address at Gettysburg became a speech that school children memorize? Edward Everett, former president of Harvard, was the featured speaker at Gettysburg that day, and he gave a 2-hour address. We don't remember it at all, because Lincoln so carefully chose his words to address our nation. Ela hadvarim. I imagine Moses sat and contemplated so deeply what his farewell address would be. What messages did he want to give? What tones would he take? Which words would most stir the hearts and the souls and the minds of the generation who would enter the promised land? Judaism defines some words as out of bounds as well. We call that lashon hara, slander and gossip. Judaism says that there's a purity of language that we try to achieve. And as a values statement and orientation, the Chafetz Chaim in the 20th century gave us daily meditations on refining our language and refining our use of words in our lives. And he asked questions like the one I am about to present to you on a few cards that you can read as we all consider. Eze divarim, which words shall I choose? Which words should we use and share? Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat of holy words.